Today, we have telework being encouraged again. We have an agency looking to slash more of its workers, and there's another agency that's expanding their admin leave for the people that accept the resignation program. They're going to get paid into next year. So why is this happening? How can it impact you? Let's get into it. In a few days, we're having a massive military parade in DC. This is taking place on President Trump's birthday. It's a nice little parade, tens of millions of dollars. It's going to cost a little bit, but we'll pay it, right? Taxpayers will pay it. And it's not like he set this up to celebrate his birthday. That would be strange. It's a coincidence. It just so happens to also be the Army's 250-year anniversary. So it's not for the president, it's for the troops. Well, let me share with you from a person who used to be a troop. I was a troop for over 20 years in the Army. That most soldiers, they don't want to be there. Most soldiers, they don't want to participate in ceremonies. They don't want to march in parades. What they want to do is they want to do their job, they want to train, and they want to be at home with their family. OPM dropped a memo last week suggesting federal workers not come into work for a few days. Why? Because starting June 11th, there will be parade prep to include parade rehearsals. And this area, DC, is a congested area. The traffic is a nightmare. It ranks number 2 as being the worst. And some list, I think California is number 1, but number 2 is DC. And it was strange during the pandemic because during the pandemic, 2020, 2021, you could actually drive through here with not too many difficulties. But now, especially after the return to office mandate, which flies directly in contradiction of what this OPM memo is saying, the return to office mandate made it even more difficult to try to get down here, especially during rush hour. Even if you want to take the train, you want to jump on the metro, you're on the metro, that car is jammed packed. You're sitting there, you might have someone fall in your lap as you're trying to get to the next metro station. OPM's Veronica warned that the traffic is going to be brutal. Her advice is agencies should let employees telework, take leave, or use flexible schedules to avoid the chaos. So this leads people to believe that return to office was never about efficiency. It was never about productivity. What it was about was optics and politics. Because if you look at OPM's previous studies, it shows that telework boosts productivity and saves money. It's clear that in 2025 and moving forward under this administration, federal workers can only work in federal buildings to get the job done unless there's a storm or there's a birthday parade, a military parade. Then it seems to be okay. There are some differences between the agencies because you have some agencies that are being recommended to allow people to telework or take leave, but then you have people in the USDA where they're forced to leave. And the reason they're forced to leave is because the soldiers are actually going to be housed there as if the building is a barracks. Interestingly, we had some federal agencies that ignored union contracts completely to enforce the return to office rules earlier this year. This kind of plays into the mentality of wanting to abolish unions for the sake of national security, but that's kind of a stretch in a lot of these situations. It's more about anti-union, anti-worker rights, and less about national security. Okay, so let's move to NASA. They're slashing their workforce. President Trump wants to eliminate their budget by 24% and cut the staffing down by 29%. So essentially, 3 out of every 10 people are getting the boot, and we're looking at a number probably around 5,000. 5,000 people will be out of a job. Now, it doesn't matter if they take deferred resignation program because that is an option, or they can get a RIF notice. They can be forced out, or they can choose to leave on their own accord. But the interesting thing when it comes to NASA and the deferred resignation program is they're extending that date out. So if you've been paying attention to the news lately, you know that with admin leave and the DRP, it's only gone out to September 30th, the end of the fiscal year. So in this situation, it's going to be pushed to January 9th. So individuals that want to volunteer for the DRP and NASA, they're going to get a full 7 months from July to January. Acting Administrator Janet Petro is saying this is all about streamlining operations, but we have leaders in space centers that are bracing for 3 things, really. It's the layoffs, the hiring freeze, and normal turnover. NASA has already shut down its Office of Chief Scientist and Office of Technology Policy and Strategy. They sent out RIF notices to about 20 employees in March. Those offices help NASA work with commercial space offices like SpaceX, who just so happens to be led by Elon Musk, which is a name that's been coming up more and more recently. President Trump initially nominated Jared Isaacman to lead NASA. Then he yanked that nomination away when more digging was done. When they found out Jared has been given millions of dollars to Democratic candidates and Democratic organizations, they couldn't go through with it. There's no way they could have a Democrat leading NASA. This made Elon Musk upset because Elon has a really good relationship with Jared. Elon wants to go to Mars. So he wanted to have the right man lead NASA. And in his view, that man was Jared. In Donald Trump's view, that man was not Jared. So this is seen by a lot of people as the final straw, which caused Elon Musk to go on X and unleash a firestorm of posts against the president. Okay, let's take a look at another solid agency, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, or USPTO. I love this agency. My neighbor works for this agency. I went downtown, Old Town Alexandria. I went to a couple of their events. Everyone I talked to over there has always enjoyed working over there. But the direction they're headed in now is causing low morale. The agency currently has over 15,000 employees. But since Trump has taken office, they've lost about 13% of their judges and hundreds of their patent examiners. You can't lose patent examiners over there. You got a backlog of 800,000 patents that need to be addressed. So this isn't the right time to start losing people. And a lot of this was done, surprise, it was done because of the return to office mandate. Employees feel like they're in a sci-fi movie. Rumors, paranoia, and a clampdown on leaks have everyone on edge. The real crazy thing about this situation is when you look at the USPTO, they're funded by fees. They're not funded by taxpayer dollars. And the whole outrage when it comes to the federal workforce is we're wasting our taxpayer dollars. We're doing duplicative jobs. There's fraud, waste, and abuse. You have to safeguard the taxpayer dollar, right? That makes sense. A lot of people are saying you can't, you don't want to see your tax dollars going to waste ever. You never want to see that. But this agency is not funded by taxpayer dollars. Instead, it's fees like a basic filing fee, $350, search fee, $770, examination fee, $880, and an issue fee, $1,200, among many other fees. There are like a dozen other fees that support this agency, and you have to understand that they have been teleworking for over 30 years. So this return to office, it had everybody shook. They were all rattled, like, what are you talking about? We've been working like this for 3 decades. And you have some situations where you have the civil servant, the federal employee, they're coming back to the office, but the contractors that they supervise or they have oversight over these contractors, they're still remote. So it's a very interesting and weird dynamic that's happening over there right now. One judge says, we're being treated like we don't know what we're doing. And it's not just that, judge. That's the impression that most federal workers have right now. You're treating us like we're kids running around in a daycare. You're putting your kid gloves on and you're doing the micromanaging. It's like you never worked a day in this position. You haven't been here for 20, 25, 30 years. You have no clue. So let me tell you how to do it. Get back in the office and I'm going to continue to observe you and tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. They were so unprepared for this move, USPTO, they completely ran out of chairs and monitors. In fact, they had to put people in different buildings because they didn't have enough desks. That's how bad it got over there. And it's not just logistics. The agency is pushing examiners to process more patents to cut the backlog. A GAO report recently said that the agency is so focused on their quantity that their quality is taking a hit. They're sacrificing their quality. And you know what else they're sacrificing? Their travel budgets, because that's been cut by 86%. You had one examiner say it's chaos and cruelty. Then there's another employee, a lady that worked over there. She ended up quitting in February because she could see the writing on the wall. There were coworkers breaking down crying, and she kind of felt spooked about this new program they were unveiling. Basically, they were going to do continuous vetting. You probably heard of that. Continuous vetting. It's usually used when you're talking about security clearances, but there was an impression that they were going to start tracking your social media. So you put a post on Facebook or Instagram, and that would be tracked by some entity or some algorithm. Now, that whole program was canceled over there, but it still caused quite the backlash. But there is some good news because they have this pilot bonus program where they're trying to pay 2.7% extra per quarter if you're doing extra work as an examiner. So if that money is in addition to overtime, that could be a great deal financially speaking. But when you got a workplace where people are feeling disrespected and they're fearing layoffs, it's not going to be good. A lot of the workers there, they keep repeating the same word over and over to describe things, and that word being chaos. Now, it's not just this agency by far. There's another agency out there that is using data to fire thousands of people. They're using data to conduct layoffs. That seems right. That seems like a very effective way to do things. However, that data is inaccurate. That data does not reflect reality and is causing a big problem. If you want to know more about that, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.